This is GARIS, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2-3 page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 121, entitled Fluffie Criminality. Description. This flyer gives a handful of examples of fluffy criminality, that is, ways in which fluffies abuse men by acting criminally towards them. Flyer itself. Fluffy criminality. Why do MGTOW/masculists despise fluffies? Because fluffies are criminals in many respects, and men hate being the victims of fluffy criminality. In this flyer, I'll give a handful of ways in which fluffies behave in criminal fashion against men. Before doing so, I will give them labels and then elaborate. Fluffies are intellectual sloths. Fluffies parasite of men's money. Fluffies financially massacre men with divorce. Fluffies force paternity on men. There are many other examples of fluffy criminality against men, but these four are some of the main ones. Fluffies are intellectual sloths. The obvious evidence of this is the way the majority of young women in high school, 16 years old, choose to study fluffy crap. That is, in their final 2 years of high school. That is, not math, not the sciences. Because they feel these subjects are too hard, too intellectually demanding. They choose to do something creative, which is fluffy speak for easier, so that they don't have to use their brain and learn to think logically as needed for math and the sciences. As a result of these fluffy crappers' decisions, the large majority of young women choose to not become FIPs as adults, because by choosing to study fluffy crap at 16, they lock themselves into studying fluffy crap, non-STEM majors in the professions, at university. So they end up graduating with diplomas that the economy does not value, because these fluffy crapper women have no real marketable skills, unlike the STEM major female minority and the professions, who can earn much better salaries because they have marketable skills. So these fluffy crappers then start looking around for some man-slave idiot who has not had his MGTOW/masculist consciousness raised, to pay for her to live in a middle-class house that she raises her kids in. As more and more men wake up to this man-slavery, the supply of such men is rapidly drying up. In the US and Japan today, 2/3, 70% of young men under 35 refuse to pay for women, work for women, be man-slaves to fluffy, parasitic, criminal women. Men are going on strike in their millions, refusing to work for women. Masculists put enormous moral pressure on women to grow up and become FIPs, or they're punished. They do not get a man. Masculists preach to women, quote, be fit or be manless. No calculus, no baby. Forcing women to become responsible adults, paying their own way, or they rot on the shelf. Fluffies parasite off men's money. We live in a gender tweenage, that is, between the two ages of traditional gender roles when men earned the money and the women stayed at home with lots of kids, and a future FIP society when all women are FIPs and behave like responsible adults. We do not yet live in a FIP society, capital F, capital S. There are still millions, billions of women who expect that some manslave will pay for them to have kids. The MGTOW and masculist movements are all about changing those fluffy attitudes, forcing women to become FIPs or they will not get a man. The primary goal of the masculists is to wipe out fluffydom. That is, by wiping out fluffies, not by killing them, of course, but by merely ignoring them to death, refusing to have relationships with them so that they rot on the shelf to extinction, manless, loveless, sexless, babyless, poor, and shunned by a culture fully conscious of masculist/MGTOW ideas. Fluffydom is man-slavery. Man-slavery is slavery. Slavery is a war issue, and the masculist/MGTOWs are at war against the fluffies, aiming to wipe them out, so that all women become fluffy FIPs. So that all women become FIPs and not parasite on men. Masculists point the finger at fluffies and accuse them with venom You fluffies are immoral, parasitic, manslaving vermin. We men have the power to wipe you out, because a woman can only be a fluffy if some manslave is prepared to be parasited upon. But the supply of such manslave dupes is fast drying up, so you'll have to get off your parasitic bums and become fips, or you don't eat. Fluffies financially massacre men with divorce. Roughly one married father in 4 will be financially massacred in the fluffy feminist dominated divorce courts. This is a massive injustice against men, and the primary reason why the MGTOW movement has come into existence. The divorced father will typically lose his kids, with 90% probability, his house, be forced to pay child support to kids he barely sees, maybe 2 weekends or 2 afternoons a month, and to pay alimony to his fluffy ex-wife so that she can continue to parasite off him after the divorce the way she did before the divorce. When one married woman in 4 is quite happy to financially massacre her ex-husband in a divorce court, shows clearly what women really think of men, that is, only as cash machines, and men really hate that. One of the main reasons masculists put such enormous moral pressure on women to be fips is to stop this financial massacring in the divorce courts. With all women fips, they'll be able to pay for themselves, so no alimony. If a woman gets sole custody of the kids, then she pays for them, because she's a fip. But with the MGTOW masculists refusing paternity, the gender politicians will be forced to mend the gender laws, so men will get automatic joint custody of the kids after a divorce. There are women today who even hold divorce parties, gloating over the fact that they have used the fluffy feminist-dominated divorce courts to rob and ruin the lives of their ex-husbands. And they gloat about it. No wonder MGTOW/masculists avoid fluffies like the plague. Such women are vermin to MGTOW/masculists. Fluffies force men into paternity. One of the greatest and glaring sexual discriminations against men is the lack of a paternity rejection right. That is, the right of a man to refuse paternity, the same way a woman has a maternity rejection right, aka also known as abortion right. Fluffies utterly reject the for obvious reasons. If there were a women would have to be fips. They would then be forced to be responsible for their own lives and make their own money and pay for their own kids. This prospect scares the shit out of fluffies, so they fight the tooth and nail. Millions of women criminally trick men into getting them pregnant, e.g. by lying about taking the pill, getting pregnant and then forcing a paternity suit on him to force him to pay for a kid that he never wanted. This is utterly criminal on the part of millions of women. They want a kid and abuse a man to pay for her to have a kid. This is criminality of a high order, because behaving like this, she ruins a man's whole life. There are probably a string of other examples I could mention, but these 4 give a pretty good idea of the level of criminality of the fluffy mentality, a mentality the masculists aim to wipe out by forcing and socializing women to be fips, to be responsible adults, to pull their weight, to grow up. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. YouTube channel name de GARIS, Masculist, MGTOW, Flyers. Ciao.